what I'm saying is that instead of trying to be perfect and hit every single day, which is ideal, we want to expand a little bit and be okay with not being perfect. And can we still reach the goal? And under what circumstances can that happen? Hey, NAC Warriors, how are you doing today? It is Thursday. We're creeping over to Friday, and we're getting closer to the holiday season, for most of you, maybe for some of you, it's already started. We've got many family traditions that we've got going on, and makes it a lot of fun this time of the year. So today we are going to go over another aspect of the NAC Warrior roadmap, but it's not really on the roadmap. It's sort of like it assists the roadmap. And I came across this because one of the things that people get scared of is choosing to do things right. And especially when you get started, or even when you get through to, let's say, making an improvement on yourself, how do we keep ourselves in check yet not be so strict? And one of the things that we do when we get into health and fitness is we usually go really strict on ourselves, and we don't give ourselves sort of some room to play. And what makes this interesting is that one of my passions in my job is to be a process improvement specialist. And what that entails is going in there and seeing how somebody does something, or a bunch of people, and figure out, okay, what is the best way to do this? How do we approach this the most smooth and efficient and effective way possible? But we also run into some problems if after we improve that process and we walk away from it, how do we know that, one, something was actually done, right? How do we know that something is being followed through on? So we spent some time, and if you're familiar with Kaizens, you spend a week or so going in there, and you don't want all that time being wasted. So how do you know that people are following through? Or if you have to-do list that still needs to be done, and then how do you, even when things are done and things are running and people are doing things, how do you even know that those things are meeting the goals that you have set? And what you need to do is come up with rules or measurements. So in process improvement, it might be, we want to make sure that this thing happens, but we got to allow for a degree of, let's say, flexibility, because the world isn't perfect. I would love sometimes that the world would be perfect and we could have like the results that we want every single time. But we need to understand when things don't go the way we want them to, and what does that look like, right? And so we may say, like, after 5 days, if we don't get the perfect scenario, we've received the improper result we wanted for 5 days in a row, then we have a problem that wasn't addressed or needs to be addressed, because it needs to be fixed in order to get the results that we wanted. So we have to create these rules and metrics to place after we do an improvement to make sure things are going the way we approach them. And that should be no different than anything else in our lives when we're looking for opportunities to improve, yet not only just to improve, but to set the standard of when do we fall out of that alignment, that we sort of like have to go into a correction mode, right? And so yesterday we talked about the NAC Warrior, and you've got this like image of who you want to be in the future. But once you get that alignment there, and let's say you're moving towards it, you have to understand, like, is what you're doing moving you towards that? And again, a lot of you want to be perfect, like it has to be perfect. But what I'm saying is that instead of trying to be perfect and hit every single day, which is ideal, we want to expand a little bit and be okay with not being perfect. And can we still reach the goal? And under what circumstances can that happen? So for instance, right now we're in the holidays, right? And what happens during that time? A lot of us get invited to functions, and we do things that create food because we get this happy association with food, right? Happiness is food. And then we end up eating all this junk food, and then we're out of control. And then after New Year's, we are depressed of where we are now, right? So, what can we do to allow ourselves some freedom? And this freedom actually will go a long way, even beyond just like immediate things, because what we want to do is make sure that we are gliding through, not pushing and fighting through, but sort of gliding as much as we can to our goal. And that doesn't mean it's not going to get rough and everything, but if right now I'm planning on this week eating healthy, yet tomorrow I'm invited to a holiday party, do I skip out on it because I'm afraid to go eat? No, I know ahead of time during this season that there's a potential that someone's going to ask me to go hang out at a holiday party, whether it be at work, friends, or whatever, and that I need to be prepared for that. So, one, having rules. Rules are what we need in order to understand, okay, when I get here, I'm not going to be so, like, give me celery sticks and carrots, and then you get to the party or whatever, and you see the celery sticks, and right next to it is, in my case, would be either ice cream, probably not ice cream, but would definitely be holiday cookies or brownies. And I'm a sucker for that, and I'm going to reach for that, and I already know that. So why set myself up for failure? Because what's going to happen is I'm going to, instead of enjoying myself at the party, I'm going to be struggling, deciding whether or not I'm going to eat the cookie or the brownie, and am I just going to eat this carrot and really have fun talking to people with the carrot? Well, that's probably like your mindset, right? So instead, just know in these situations, what you're going to do is allow yourself 3 cookies of brownie, or this and that. And then and then take a step back, right? Because a lot of us try to be perfect, but if we take a step back and say, one day a week for the next month, if I stick to everything else like perfect, like I'm really honest in sticking to the plan, but one day a week for the next 4 weeks until New Year's is over, I'm going to allow myself to sort of step out of the range, then one, you're going to enjoy yourself. You're going to enjoy the event much better. 2, you're going to be okay. If you take a step back and say, now, if you set your NAC Warrior, what we talked about yesterday, at the end of the 4 weeks, then you've set yourself up for a little bit harder of a journey, right? And that's why we need to understand these things and put everything into perspective. And again, the NAC Warrior Roadmaps helps us with that. So what we want to do is really take a step back and understand, where are the pitfalls going to come in? And we can use history to let us know. Like, I know how I'm going to behave at certain functions because that's just my habits. So I can either fight it, which is a possibility. Maybe I really need to be strict this time, and the best thing to do is to not join these holiday parties or go to a party that only allows vegetable platters. But you got to figure out how you're going to make this work. And then just once you've got a plan, just let it go, right? Or maybe you need to push your NAC Warrior an extra, I don't know, week or 2, right? And so having these rules in place and understanding how this all comes together is really, really important to set yourself up for success. Because the one thing I would really hate for you to happen is, you're listening to me and you're all like, right now, somehow you got connected to my content, and it's going to be during a period of time of, temptation, and you're going to get all hyped up. And then you're going to go into these situations, and then you're going to be like, oh man, I really want that platter, or I want that buffet, or whatever. I want to drink, and whatever it is for you. And then you're going to be like, I really can't do what Angelo is saying, right? I can't do what that other guru is saying. They talk this perfect world. The world is not perfect. You are going to end up in these temptations unless your life is focused and circles around, like your job is health and fitness. There's you're gonna have temptations, right? And so why fight yourself on that? And why put yourself through the rough time of trying to plow through that? And I mean, the only reason I would say you should plow through that and like really say, I'm being very strict, very like perfect, is only because you want to prove to yourself that you have the willpower and determination that if you set your mind up to something, you can do it. Then I would say, sure, all right, go for it. Go try to plow through and beat down all barriers that come in front of you. That would, to me, would be an exception to being gradient, right? Because you need to prove it to yourself, and you're trying to give yourself the biggest challenge you possibly can to prove to yourself something, right? But here's my tip for that. If you fall short, don't beat yourself up, right? Dust yourself off, get back up, set a smaller goal, and go after that. And then prove yourself on that. And maybe it's, again, choosing smaller portions of stuff. Okay, instead of 5 plates of food, maybe go to 1 plate of the top 5 things. That's what you've decided. You're going to do 1 plate, and you're going to pile on as much as you can. So you can't do 5 plates, but you can only do 1, and you're going to pile it on with only 5 of the top things that you would want to eat, and you can put as much as that plate will hold. Do some fun thing like that, and it creates a conversation piece too, right? So if it's something that you would like support on, or would really like to have a sort of conversation, a fun one, this would be one of those good ones to do, to have with other people. And who knows, maybe you'll get a little competition, like who can stuff top 5 things the most on a plate and eat that. And then here's the other thing. Always do this. I think I did a video on this some time ago. Maybe I didn't, but one of the things I have found is if you go to a package, right? A package of whatever it is, chips, almonds, whatever, and then look on the back and see the serving size on it. If you take that serving size out and actually eat it, and when I say actually eat, that means like really acknowledge each bite that you're taking. Like don't just just plow it down, which I have a tendency to do. Like just eat it like one and enjoy that almond or enjoy that chip and really taste it, right? By the time you get to the end of that serving size, that taste that you're craving is actually going to disappear, most likely. And it won't even take you to the end of the, to the end of the serving. It will probably happen somewhere in the middle to a little bit after the middle. You won't get to the full. And then once you realize that the taste is gone, then really reflect on yourself and say, do I really need to eat any more? Because really one of the things that we're doing is really trying to get that taste. And so that's what I'm really trying to help people with, is to understand, like, you can create all these different rules. And one of these things could be serving size only, right? When you go to a function, that's a little bit harder. But if you're at home and all these things are around and they have the nutrition label on it, go to that, look at the serving size and eat that much. Another tip is your tummy, your stomach. Like when you start eating, Like, go to the point where you start feeling a little, and especially if you're really enjoying the food, not just stuffing it in your face, but really tasting the food, and then start realizing the impact on your stomach, meaning how does it feel? Not like, oh, I feel like this is going to make me a blimp. We already know that eating bad foods is not good for you, but we are being realistic to ourselves. But we don't want to eat to the point where we're like overindulgent, like we're like, oh my gosh, I can't stuff another morsel in my body or I'm going to explode. If you've gone to that point, you've gone too far. So take some check-ins of yourself to be like, okay, yeah, one, I no longer taste this anymore. So what's the point of eating it? Because again, the most likely thing that you wanted to eat that was because you associated a feeling to the taste and to that part of it. At some point, that feeling is going to go away because you've got what you needed. So it's probably less than you actually need the whole like pile on. So you pile on things and you're like, ooh, this is going to be great. And if you're like me, in the past, I would just, and then I'd plow through it and then I'd be like overindulged. But now eating things slowly, really understanding the taste, like enjoying the taste, and then doing a check-in with how do I feel? Do I feel full? Do I feel that little pressure of saying, yeah, you're kind of full now? Then you want to stop, right? Those two things. Another thing I do is I love dessert more than I love food. So one of the things I will do is I will hold back on the food, knowing I'm going to go all out on the dessert. And I just have a sweet tooth. I like desserts. So that's what I know about myself. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there. And if I go to a function, I'm going to be like, okay, maybe I'll get a salad. And everybody's going to be like, oh, you're having a salad. And then I'm going to say, well, yeah, just wait till I get to the dessert because I'm going to go all out on the dessert. And instead of, a little bit of this and that, I may have like 5 cookies, 3 scoops of ice cream, whatever looks like. And here's the thing. So my top 2, I'm giving you so many of my insides here. Top 2, ice cream and cookies. Those will be at the top of the list. And those will always take first priority on my plate. The rest of it, I'm going to glance and I'm going to say, what looks interesting? And then if I want more desserts, because there's way more desserts there than I expected that look enticing. They look like they're going to taste good, and sometimes they just don't. But I'm going to reserve extra space and reduce the amount of food I'm going to have for the meal because I'm really gunning for that tasty treat that caught my eye. And now I have a sort of make believe or perspective of what I think that's going to taste like. And I'm like a sucker for chocolate. So one of those things might be like, ooh, I see that chocolate morsel there. I'm going to have one less spoonful of salad, even though they don't equal portion size, because I'm more concerned about how my stomach feels. I find that's a really good indicator of when to stop. And if I ever push past that, I always feel bloated. I feel very bad after. Whereas if I had something like, let's say I was limited by a portion of whatever was there, I had to share it. And then the taste that I get will be satisfied, but it's the stomach that really, and if I only have a limited portion of it, then I don't get that bloated feeling. I feel satisfied, maybe craving a little bit more. But if I mess with my stomach and go beyond that, like that pressure point of like, oh, this is too much, game over. I feel bloated. I feel like the next day I gained 100 pounds, even though, and this is even today. So let me be very clear. This journey is a relationship journey that you're always going on, and you're learning about it, and you're never perfect, right? And I've given up being perfect, and I just kind of like direct what I can direct. I control what I can control, and I enjoy where I want to enjoy. So it's very important to kind of just listen to yourself and really understand that people out there, again, unless this is like their whole, like this is their story, like health and fitness, they want to be like, yeah, I did this, I did that. That there's nothing wrong against that. But for the rest of us who like to eat, who do get lazy sometimes, we need to allow ourselves that room and work around that, right? And so for me, I'm no different than every one of you out there. I struggle with eating food. I struggle with getting out there to exercise because there's a lot of things that take my attention away. But what I've figured out is how to, in the majority of my time, inject it there and inject it into my life so that it's not disappeared and I overall feel healthy. The one thing I could say that I'm struggling with the most right now is my cardio. And, right now I'm looking at my weight because we are in the holiday seasons and I have the rule of like the 5 pounds either side. And so I'm watching that as I'm eating and I'm like, ooh, okay, I got to start eating more healthy to get that little, come down a little bit back because I know some things are coming up very soon. Like the next, probably not next week, but the next following 3 weeks are going to be pretty tough for me. So I need to make sure that I get that meter sort of a little bit down on the other side, or at least where I normally like it to have, and then allow it to kind of expand there. So this is my tips for you for the holidays, but really it's the rules. The rules are super important to have those rules and make sure that they are compensating and evolving, right? A lot of us want to have, okay, so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to be like, okay, rules. Got it, Angelo. I'm going to put these rules, 5 pounds, 5 pounds. I'm going to follow what you do. I'm going to do the whole plate thing. And then guess what? The holidays are over and you never change the rules. Because another part of our NAC Warrior roadmaps is the season. You have to understand what season you're in, so you've got to adjust accordingly. So I'm only going to do that for like this part of the season. Once we go past the season, there should be no reason why I need to implement a rule of being very concerned about my plate, except for maybe one birthday party. For the rest of it, I should be able to eat healthy, right? And here's the other thing. One last tip. I'm sorry, I could keep going because I just love this stuff. Addictions, right? We gotta pay attention to our addictions and really put a rule in on our addictions. We forget about that. We put things that we can measure, that's easy to measure, like our weight, how much portions we have, how does our stomach feel full, yes or no? Do we taste something, yes or no? Those are easy to measure. But addiction is really hard to measure. And when I say addiction, I'm talking more about your habits. And if you start like at the end of whatever, let's say 1 week, and I like to measure things in week. How did I do this week? And at the end of the week, I kind of look at it and say, okay, do I crave something now that I've allowed myself to kind of expand? Do I crave something now that I wouldn't normally crave? And if I do, that's a good yellow flag heading into red that I need to start backing off, right? Because now I'm creating I'm reigniting the feelings, emotions, and it's really hard during the holiday seasons because you got so much attached to the things that we're doing that it's happy. It makes us feel good. Like chestnuts. I love chestnuts are like, I want chestnuts. I like the taste of chestnuts and I want chestnuts at Christmas time. But every time I buy chestnuts, I waste like 90% of them, maybe even more. Maybe I only get like, I think I did a post on it, like there was like 50 chestnuts in a bag. Maybe 5 of them were good. Maybe 5. So maybe 10%. Maybe even less than that. But we'll go with 10%. And it's so much work. And I'm like, oh, but I have such an association with it that I can't help it. If anything, I'm like, I want to buy a chestnut farm and or grow a tree if I can to get those chestnuts, because I'm very disappointed in the market of chestnuts. Every year I'm disappointed. So I'm like, well, I can either one, just live with it and just be like, fine, it's going to be this way. Or I can go out there and buy a chestnut company and say, look, we're stripping down all the things, or maybe I buy my own tree. I don't know. But anyways, but I have such a strong association with it that I know it's going to come. And with these holidays, we have such strong emotional associations, good or bad, because you could have bad ones and you're like, oh, I don't like the holidays. And food, you may have like a repulsion against food because something happened with your relationship with food during the holidays, right? And that could be like something. So we got to be understanding, like, if we start craving things and we've been working hard to reestablish a new habit, we have to be aware of that and put rules on that and be like, well, if I'm starting to crave something more than I should, we need to put the kibosh on that and just start saying, okay, I really got to back off at this point, right? Reestablish that habit that I had before, because you have it. And here's the thing, like, and Tony Robbins calls this anchoring. Like, we have anchored emotions to certain things, and we may think it might be the food, it could be the time of the season, all these different things. And this is where we really got to dive deep and really figure out, okay, what is it? Because if we can eliminate or control that situation, we set ourselves up for success for long term in the future. So there we go. That's it for today. Let's see. Don't forget, we have our Facebook group. Please join us on our Facebook group, NAC Warriors. The description or the link is somewhere in whatever you're listening to. So just to let you know, I do this live on Facebook. I do upload of a podcast of the same actual audio version, and on YouTube you can get the replay, or you can watch the replay here on Facebook. But sometimes I find it that finding things in Facebook is a little bit more harder than going to like YouTube or anything like that. But all the lives happen here on Facebook. And yeah, that's it for today. Tomorrow's Friday. Thank goodness. I like the weekend because I get to do a lot more than I possibly can today. But if you have any questions that you would love me to answer for you when it comes to health and fitness, please let me know. I'll give you a shout out. I'll put the question up on our next episodes. And if you are looking for some help on your health and fitness journey, come join our Facebook group. Come talk to me. I'm feeling a little generous these days, so if there's something you want to work out with me, especially when it comes to maybe you're feeling a little inconsistent or need a little help during these holidays, reach out. And I'm like I said, I'm feeling a little generous now that we're heading into the holidays, and I'd love to work with you to help you through this season of. I can only help so many people, so it's kind of like a first come first serve. But if I can't help you personally, please post your question, and then I will try to answer it. I will answer it in a future live session. So with that, have a good day, and I'll see you tomorrow.